Hey, it's Arroe. Podfest brings together 3 different conversations, from musicians to authors, doctors, environmentalists, or cooks in their own kitchen. These are real people with real stories. Podfest 64, we kick things off with a true Pawn Star, Mr. Rick Harrison. Then we're going behind the scenes to spend some time with a real wizard, the voice of so many books on tape and Audible, Robert Bathurst. Our third conversation is in memory of one of the most memorable comedians of our time, Richard Lewis. This is Podfest 64.
Arroe, am I saying that right?
You're absolutely saying it right, sir. How are you doing today?
Fabulous. Living the dream.
Absolutely you are. You're my Bob Dylan, because I've been with you since episode number 1. I've grown up around you, and you've been a part of my family and lifestyle, but I still have to ask the question, why aren't people pawning more than they are selling? Because I was a guy in Montana that pawned everything.
Well, we found out really quick when we first started filming the show that no one wants to be filmed when they're pawning their stuff.
Okay. That simple, huh?
It's plain and simple like that, yeah.
Well, what you guys are doing on Pawn Stars Do America, this to me, you're coming out to us, which is like, oh my God, we get to really see who you are.
Yeah, I'm actually real and everything like that. But it's really fun. I mean, because I get to see a lot of stuff that would never come to Vegas, and and people are like lined up with stuff, so it's really, really cool. I mean, like 80% of it is like pretty bad, but another 10 or 20% is really good. So it's been fun, and I'm sure I'm going to do it again. But like, we just signed for a season of regular Pawn Stars in Vegas, so I'm thinking maybe we'll be switching back and forth over the years, as long as they still have me. But apparently, I'm the TV show that goes on forever. Was this inspired by your journey, like going up into North Dakota and stuff? Because I thought that was one of my favorite times of watching you, the way that you went up there on the cycle. I mean, you fell in love with that cycle. Well, I mean, like, I've done that my whole life. I mean, like, unfortunately, I worked all summer long, but usually during the summer, I'll take 1 or 2 1,500-mile trips on my motorcycle. I still do that. And it's funny because I just pull the woods and, pull out my hammock and go to bed in the middle of the night. And, like, people will pull up and like, you can't camp here. They go like, are you Rick from Pawn Stars? No, but I still do that. I there's nothing like riding a motorcycle cross country. I absolutely love it. As you're going across the country, have you noticed that the different regions are hoarding things that are different? Because here in the South, man, I'll sell you a washing machine. I'll bring one over to you. Different parts of the country have different stuff. You know what I mean? Apparently, everybody in Kentucky has something amazing that's bourbon. Yeah, I mean, I filmed in Detroit, and it was just all car stuff. So, but yeah, regionally it's a little bit different, but you kind of get shocked on the weird stuff you see. When you went into Texas and you came face to face with that '68 Buick, oh my God, dude, you like cars. Oh, I have an addiction to cars. I mean, there's therapy for it, but I won't go. No, I mean, I have 29 registered vehicles. I just there is something about cars. I mean, older. I mean, modern looking cars are but like older cars. I mean, they were literally, the automakers, fought over the best designers, and then you take a designer, and then you had to have engineers. It's the mechanics, it's the engineering, it's the style, and everything that wrapped up into a beautiful piece of art that you can drive. That and guitars. I can't drive a guitar. I got chubby. Yeah, I've tried to learn how to play a guitar. It's just never going to happen to me, so I'm going to stick to the cars. How do you put up with someone like Chumley? Because, I mean, Chumley seems to be that one little coworker that we all have. We just kind of give them the look, and then you try to straighten them out, but it's just not going to go right. I mean, he's been my burden for like 30 years, so I love him to death. I treat him like a son, and like, I don't know. I like 30 years ago, I just sort of he just got stuck on me, like something on my shoe, and like couldn't get it off. And like I said, I love him to death. And he's the funniest person. He's one of the funniest people on television. I mean, like the stuff that comes out of his mouth is just shockingly funny sometimes. You just never see it coming. I just watched one of the rewinds because Pawn Stars is everywhere anymore, and you can go all the way back to the beginning seasons. I saw the one that where he was trying to buy paintings, and then you taught him how what to look for and stuff, and then you put him through a test. I love that kind of stuff about you, Rick, because that shows leadership. Well, I mean, the other thing about my show is, I mean, like, and I'm real proud of it. I mean, a bunch of, meet parents all the time. They tell me about how it's the only show one of the few shows they can watch with their kids. And you actually learn something on my show. And I've always said, like, it's like laugh and learn TV. I kind of invented it. You know what I mean? And that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. I mean, like, it's one of the last family shows left on television.
I'm a show prep freak. I don't know how you can just pull this stuff out of your mind when a book comes in and all of a sudden you're giving me a history lesson. And the thing is, in school, I would have tuned out. But when you're talking, I don't tune out.
Well, the reason I know all this stuff is because I know nothing about popular culture. I mean, literally, you said Kim Kardashian right next to me, and I have no idea who it was. I listen to old music and I read books every night. I don't, kind of a bad thing to say for a guy who's been on television for so long, but I don't watch television. I just read at night, and I just read bizarro, weird statement. I read books on material sciences.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of nerdy, but I do it.
Yeah, but that's what we love about you. You are a nerd because you're in that pawn store, and it's like, oh my God, this guy is with everybody. And I think that's one of the things I learned during the pandemic is that no matter what was going on in the world, I had Pawn Stars, and you guys were always with people having conversations.
Yeah, and it's also the way we film the show. I mean, we film the show so we can tune it in at any time and just start watching it. It's comfort television. And like I said, it's one of the last family shows on television.
Yeah. So the gold and silver pawn shop, everybody that's been in my neighborhood has been there in Vegas. It's such a mile marker right now. And I mean, that's got to be fascinating for you. Did you think it was going to grow that big? No. I'm literally, for lack of a better term, I was like a media whore, and every time I got like national press, it was good for business. So hey, if I get this like a reality show, I get a season or two, it'll be good for business. I never thought it'd be on in 150 countries, 38 languages. I mean, I averaged 2,000 people a day in the pawn shop. Yep.
I mean, it's the number one non-gaming tourist attraction in Las Vegas.
Wow. You're heading into, on the Pawn Stars Do America, I mean, you've Tampa, Boston, Detroit, Phoenix. I mean, you're going to some real hot spots in America.
Yeah, I think I'm doing 160 nights in hotels this year.
God. Those moments where you kind of just when you can't make a deal, I think is one of the greatest examples of the pregnant pause, because a lot of people don't believe in that. But when you're making that deal and you give us as viewers that pause, oh my God, that is so intense.
I don't know, just part of my job. It's just what I did my whole life. I mean, but it's like if the deal's right, the deal's right. If the deal's not right, the deal's not right. And I just walk away. And that's another thing I've always taught about my show. I talk about my show. I mean, this is how business works. I mean, this is reality. I mean, it's we can't make it. Maybe so. I mean, I love it all the time. Well, someone else offered me that. I'm well, go take it.
Yeah. So where along the line did Big Hoss drop Big Hoss? Because I mean, you go back to the beginning episodes, and that's how we knew him.
Yeah, I know. He got the lap band surgery and started working out a lot, and got skinny all of a sudden.
Yeah, and he's going to bring another boat to you because he likes buying boats.
Oh, no. Yeah. The boats are a giant hole in the water you throw money into.
Dude, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
All right. Thanks for having me, Ben.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you. All right. Same to you.
Hello and good morning. How are you doing today, Robert?
Arroe. Hello, it's Robert. Hello.
Man, congratulations on getting the opportunity to create and be with Louise Penny again. Because, I mean, the way the two of you are Lennon and McCartney together.
I should be delighted to hear that. Lennon and Ringo Starr, maybe. Yeah.
Is it like sitting down with an old friend when you have her books in front of you? Because, I mean, the connection that you guys have had has just been mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's a connection. I'm very well aware of the hierarchy in all this because, I mean, she writes it and I don't suspect she listens to it. We talk, we communicate quite a lot, and I see her whenever I can. But the relationship between an author and the audio reader is there's no, it's her creation, and she's got the voices in her head as to how these characters are. So I wouldn't want her to listen to what I do because it's what's going on in her head that's the most important thing. What she gets down on the page. But it's really exciting every year to read it and to have that sort of sense that here we go again, and will this one work again? It's in the 17th of the series. I've read the last 7 of them.
Wow.
Sadly, Ralph Cosham died, the first reader. He died after having read 10 of them. But I've done the last 7, and it's been a big, good ride.
Well, the way that you bring out the words is that, see, I grew up listening to Radio Mystery Theater, and I was always intrigued by the way that I was drawn into the story. You do the same exact thing, and that's why I can't peel myself away from this, because I'm so much into the story with you.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that, because it is about engagement, isn't it? And it is about drawing you in and not pinning you back. Because I think if you're trying to pin someone back with the voice beautiful and all the sort of histrionics and technique and that, I think that can get wearisome after a while. So you are, as the reader, just the conduit between the author and the listener, and just don't get in the way. Just of course serve the writing, of course squeeze the language as best you can, of course make the characters as pronounced as you can, but don't intrude and don't get in the way of what the author intended. Of course, find the nuances, but don't be annoying.
Well, Louise definitely
of a narrator.
Louise definitely has her eye on what's going on in the world today, because I mean this story is very timeless. I mean, the cost of giving a voice to a public figure. I mean, this is something that it's almost like it came out of today's newspapers.
Yeah, I mean, she's taken this. The start of the book is set slightly in the future, when we're no longer in the grip of anxiety and fear and about the virus. But it's also acknowledging the fact that although we've all everybody collectively has been under the cosh of this thing, people's reactions have been very different, and the way they've expressed their differences hasn't been, you couldn't call it debate. It's just been a sort of a harangue, a sort of overlapping harangues. And it's been tribal, and it's been really, really bitter, and it's left people really unsettled. And so that is the atmosphere in which we embark on The Madness of Crowds, the new novel. And Inspector Gamache is detailed to protect someone whose opinions he finds abhorrent. And so he has this personal and professional tension that he's got to master. Mm-hmm. In order to do his job properly, but also, I acknowledge the fact that he doesn't agree with them. But of course, things develop beyond that. But that's the atmosphere in which this where we kick off with this book.
Well, I love where she puts it in Three Pines, which is that's a Canadian village, is it not? Because I'm from Montana, and Canada was just right there as my neighbor.
Yes. And Three Pines doesn't exist. And in the early novels, it's established that Three Pines is not on any GPS.
Okay.
And Three Pines, Three Pines is a sort of, in one sense, is a sort of state of mind.
Okay.
And it's a sanctuary. It's a place of healing. But for a place of healing, there's a lot of murder going on there, I tell you. And it's sort of people go there who are to some extent, people who live there, they're all to some extent lost. But they are lost in a way in which everybody's lost. I mean, everybody has lost, and everybody has things that they yearn for and aspire to and hope for, and there is a sort of strange mystical quality. I would call it with a small s spiritual as well, in the sense that there is underlying the murder and mayhem. There is underlying it a sense of great goodness. It is really a manifesto to say that goodness does exist in the face of everything that comes out to the contrary of that. And there is underlying it a really strange and perhaps unfashionably expressed feeling of the possibility of redemption.
How do you study for a book like this? Because the scripts I know probably arrive, but the thing is though is that you still, as an actor, have got to become a part of the story somehow, some way. Do you not?
It's never part of the story. I mean, it's always the golden thread is between the author and the audience.
Yeah.
How to engage the audience in a way which the author intended, but needs to be achieved. So yeah, you embody it in the sense that, like a performance, it's a performance, and it's not just a reading. I mean, of course, at a basic level, you've just got to read it and make sense of it. But then you've got to squeeze every phrase and find the characterization of all the different characters, and also take from the way that it's written, the cadence of it, of writing, the length of the sentences, how pacey it should be, or how languorous it should be, or whatever, and take your cue from what she's written. So yeah, there's all sorts of things that the narrator can do to colour it in, but there's a lot you can do to disengage the audience. So your job is to completely engage them with what she's presenting. And obviously another reader would do it in a different way. But so the only sort of personal aspect to it is you bring your take on it, but that should never get in the way of what the author intended.
So many authors have explained to me that the reason why they became authors and writers was because they were fans of reading. Now, you bringing books to life, does that make you an extension to that celebration of reading and having a passion for it?
Yeah, a celebration of language, and my job is always at root about language. I always get very concerned when you're doing a play, and on the first day of rehearsal, the director says, "Okay, well, this is the movement director." You think, "Hey, let's get the movement director in now. We just got to make sense of it first." Because just you find, you'd understand this as a radio expert. It's all about the language ultimately. Yep. Okay, fine. You can dress it up in all sorts of production and all that. And my least favourite phrase when a TV producer comes up to me when I'm doing a filming, and they say it's going to look second to none. You think, oh, that's how it's going to look. You just want to know how it's going to sound, how it's going to engage. And when they say that, you think the production values of this are going to swamp any form of any of the drama.
And another pet peeve is when people say, just go do your magic. This is not a magic trick. You got to give me direction somehow, some way.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it becomes all about the technique, then it's going to be redundant. You're not going to engage. It's all about the voice beautiful, or about sort of whatever it is that you can bring to it. It's got to live and it's got to breathe. So somehow, whatever that magic is, you want a director who can direct. I mean, I've had some rubbish directors in time. This for the director of this audiobook is Lorelei King, who's a established and award-winning voice artist in her own right, and also a very, very good director. And so I love the conversations we have, and I love the interventions she makes during a recording. And it's very much a sort of a partnership between the two of us.
With the popularity of podcasting and things like this, do you not see that stories like you have here with the madness of crowds will continue? I mean, it's already huge, books on tape and stuff like that. That's been around forever. But to do what you do, because you put such an elegance to the sound of the story, and it raises the bar of quality. It's amazing what you do with your stories. Well,
you have to have a simple approach. I mean, in order to get it across. I'm delighted you feel that, and I'm very, very heartened by that, and thank you. But it is you have to detach to some extent from yourself and to read it and imagine it. And if you have a vivid imagination, any reader has a vivid imagination because they can see it. But also, the way she writes, you can also smell it. You can also taste it. She writes in a very sensual way, and you want to give the listener the same sort of level of experience that the reader would have from the print version. And so you just have all the time you have the audience in mind, and you, if you imagine the characters, I can see them when I'm doing them, and how they're set and how they are. Then you just hope that the audience are going to get engaged in the way they should.
Well, in that engagement, as a listener, and I'll tell you how it affects me. I'm listening to it, but I can't run back to a real world until I've had at least 5 or 10 minutes to kind of put myself back in the real world, because you take me to a completely different place, and I've got to kind of re-grip life, and that's what this story does. The madness of a crowd, because you take me there. And it's just the most amazing feeling when you have to struggle to get back.
Thank you, Arroe. Yes, well, and I'm delighted you feel that way. And I've been listening to audiobooks that work in that way. I remember finishing a book, and I was going for a country walk, and I bumped into somebody I knew. But and he thought I'd gone strange because I'd literally got to the end of the chapter, and my sort of eyes were just
Yes.
revolving, and I was completely in the world that I just emerged from, and it took a certain amount of decompression for me to sort of come around. So so when that happens, it's great, and that's when audiobooks are at their best.
You talk about that decompression. I swear to you that I keep what's called a defrag journal. That I pick up my journal and I write about what I just listened to, so that I can document the experience. So that when someone says, "Well, what is this book about?" Let me tell you what this book is about, and what it's about is what I'm feeling in this moment.
Yes, if you can have a sort of spiritual reaction, a gut reaction to it. Then that's fantastic. I mean, absolutely, and it's everything that the author would have intended, and everything that the audio reader would hope.
Now, do you yourself sit down with a writing instrument and bring out words? Because I mean, you to understand a story, you've got to live the life, right?
You don't have to have experienced the life, but you certainly have to have an empathetic attachment to it.
Yeah.
I don't think. That's what I love about acting is that you can imagine you are in there. It doesn't have to have been something that you've had a lived experience of in order to get it across. I mean, it's living the life is one thing, but being able to transmit it and get it across, especially if there are 5 people in the room who all have different opinions, and you've got to get each one of those across. That's when it gets a bit more complicated.
Well, I love how you've given yourself permission to be in so many different places with your acting abilities, because I mean, you are definitely somebody that inspires the next generation to grow forward.
I mean, you want to engage the audience first of all, and not make it about you, and to get the author across and land it with them, and then get their imagination engaged.
Jerry Lewis once said to me, he says, when you're on that stage, that live stage, you have to reach the person in the final row, up there in the nosebleed section. And yet when you're in television, the microphones are so powerful that you could whisper and the world can still hear you. When you're putting a book together, what is your audience? I mean, how do you envision that person that's going to pick up your vocal range?
I don't see any difference, oddly enough, between theatre, whether you're trying to give row A the same benefit as row Z, and an audiobook or a radio show or a TV show. It is all about engaging the audience that are there. There's no point in mumbling, not mumbling. No point in mumbling at any stage. But there's no point in doing a voiceover treatment on stage. Of course, they're not going to hear it. But you work out where the audience is. You never shout, but just use your technique to reach them. Same with when you're doing radio or audiobooks. Yeah, the audience are possibly only about 6 inches from your mouth, and so they're there. But it's exactly the same juices are flowing in terms of the storytelling, in terms of landing the language and squeezing the language and finding how to engage them. You sort of imagine them, but you also it's best to imagine the characters and to have a technical facility to work with the microphone or on the TV camera, but not essentially be any different, because essentially you're just doing language which needs to communicate.
That's so interesting you say that, because even when I do my NASCAR commercials where you have to use your voice, the director is still saying, share your story. You can grunt and grind all you want, but share the story. They're not going to listen to you if you don't share the story.
Absolutely. Well directed. I think that's great. One of the great directions, that share the story. And just sharing the story. And I love the fact that you're sharing the story of NASCAR. That's great. And so, you get to Rose Z doing that voiceover, I tell you.
Please come back to this show anytime in the future, Robert. The door is always going to be open for you.
Thanks, Arroe. Very good to talk to you.
Will you be brilliant today, okay, sir?
Thanks very much. And you. It's really good to talk to you. Thank you.
We're unplugged and totally uncut with Richard Lewis.
I literally get that. I am more than just a Jewish comic, and if anyone is sicker than me, I'll get out. And I do that. I do that. And if anyone is really in trouble, I'm out in a flash. You know, you take all the money. You know, I'm not rooting for a death to happen on a course.
Hello, happy people.
What's this crap about happy people?
Listen to you. Aren't we also?
How dare you?
You know, that's what I've always loved about you is that you're going to stand up and say, you know.
Can you hear my unhappiness come through clear? You hear me?
Dude,
well?
I can hear you perfectly, but you know, you got to be happy. Look at that head of hair you still have.
My wife paints it before I leave the house. If the camera comes in close, you can just see her, even her. Are we on the air, by the way?
We are on the air. How have you been?
Well, then I like to save it for your audience. You know, you're too arrogant.
Oh,
no?
my God.
It's great to be here. You know why I'm here? You know, I have a gold mine of neurosis in a box that bundles of nerves coming out on the 2nd of September, which I've tried to put together for about 10, 12 years, and people can finally understand why I've been so screwed up and stop thinking it's a fraud. I am screwed up.
But you know what's
I'm grateful to be screwed up and alive. How's that? Does that make sense?
It absolutely does, because millions of people were following you before the internet was even created, and today this next generation is going to look at your DVDs and say, now this is what funny really is.
Well, you know, thank you, but you know, this really chronicles. You know, it chronicles all of the stuff that was important to me. Finding an identity on stage, which was clearly just taking a shower and going on stage, and that was it. It was just talking about the shower and how I felt. And Diary of a Young Comic was a special that preempted Saturday Night Live back in the when early heyday. So that was it, and it talked about how to become authentic as a performer, and how you find your voice no matter what you are in the arts. And that was a cool project and really trippy that it preempted SNL in the time slot. And then I'm a recovered you may not know, but I'm a recovering drug addict and sex addict and alcoholic. And there's a couple of projects. One, I play a junkie in a real cult indie movie, Drunks, with an amazing cast. I don't know how I even got the role. And then I played The Bottom Line in New York, which is no longer there, about 6 months sober. So that was, and it turned out to be a cool night, the show. But I mean, the fact that I did this movie and this concert sober was really freaking me out. But the fact that I pulled it off gave me a lot of confidence. And ultimately, I decided to put in a documentary of my former house, which everyone in Hollywood called the museum, who knew it. And it was an homage to all the arts, whether it was Marilyn Monroe or you know what I mean? I had pictures and photographs of everything, and because that was my children, really. I know it sounds stupid, but, I just loved looking up and seeing the Stones or the Beatles or, Miles Davis and photographs and Chaplin and Keaton. So that's how I lived for about 25 years, and we're out now, but at least my wife wanted to make sure it was a documentary, so it's a pretty cool little film.
Your performances have always been about life and its endless cycles. How is it, through everything that you've been through, that you keep getting back on that bike?
It is endless cycles. It is a day at a time to know what's going to happen. You just don't know second to second, and it took me a long time to figure that out, and sure, I'm anxious about it, but there's nothing I can do about it. That's what life is. You could be in a crap storm any second, and you can also have a great run, for weeks and weeks on end. So I just try to accept the bad now better, and I really used to freak out over the bad stuff. But fortunately, oh, did you hear that scream?
I love that.
It's a scream pillow from Edward Monk. Yeah, my wife bought it for me. She said, "Why? Just stop screaming. Let the pillow do it for you." She wanted to save my energy when I got a little older. That made any sense to you? No, I just want to I just accept stuff, man. But I luckily can make jokes out of my misery. I do. Yeah, I'm talking about myself. It's pathetic, but I mean that's what I do. I've done it since I'm 21.
So do you find yourself
that makes me feel better when I go on stage? Hey, man, That's where it's at. So luckily I have some really cool shows that I've done as a young comic, and stuff all the way up to me now. Because in the documentary I narrate it. So I moderate it, rather. So I hope you enjoy it, man. I really do. I mean, I put a lot of work into this so did the producer. And so I just hope that you dig it and your fans dig it.
Well, what's so fascinating about it is that it is your legacy. It is your story. It's almost like you're saying, look, this is how it's done. I got through the mess, and so can you. It's almost like you're going to become a motivational comedian.
Could you get a couple of people to come? We'll split it. Why don't we rent like a big arena and have 12 people staring at us, and then you'll owe me $150,000, and it'll be great. And then we can make a movie out of it, me chasing you for the bread to Mexico. But that's just a thought now. It's in its early beginnings, the movie. I would be like I'll take you at your word. And I am a motivational speaker now. I actually go on and do that, and people start chuckling when I talk about it. And then when I get into the hell I've been through and then I survived, particularly with drugs, they go, hey, maybe the guy's for real. Of course I am, I take great pride in the fact that I shouldn't be here, to be honest with you. And so I don't really, I am nuts, but I'm grateful. I'm a grateful nutcase.
Well, I'm glad that you've done this DVD because you're proving to the world that you still have strength and that through comedy with its low end after 2008, you're here to stay, and watch the face of comedy change because you are back.
You're a trip, man. Thanks very much.